Hello guys, this is Juan. Welcome to your very first C++ web application development tutorial using Witty and Witty Designer. Well, what is Witty? Well, Witty, if you go to their official website, which is www.webtoolkit.eu/witty, you will find here an introduction that it says that it's a C++ library for developing web applications. The API is modeled pretty much like Qt, and if you don't know the Qt framework, well, you can go to qt.io and you will see that Qt is a framework for developing the good old-fashioned desktop applications, and also I believe it works on mobile. And what is great about Qt is that its API is very easy to understand, very well documented, and well, Witty has an API that it's very similar, and but instead of desktop applications you can make web applications, which I believe it's very interesting. So let's get started. I'm gonna use for this tutorial Windows 7 operating system, and the reason is because it's really easy. If we do it in Linux or in Mac, it's gonna take a little bit more of time. But if you guys are interested, please say it so in the comments, and I will try and also do some tutorials with Linux and with Mac. So this is a new Virgin Windows 7 virtual machine, and I'm gonna start from zero, installing everything that we need to make our first Witty application. So we need Visual Studio 2013. So we have to Google it, and then we have to look for Visual Studio 2013 for Windows, of course. And then we click on download, and then we choose the second one, which is an online installer. Don't choose the first one, otherwise you will download a DVD image that you have to mount, and then you have to do more stuff. It's just the online tutorial is good enough for us. There are some warnings. Just click OK, agree, and install. So while this is installing, we can go to the Witty website, then click on downloads, and then search for the binaries, and then click on the link. We are gonna use the latest version. Let's see, 3.3.5 at the time this tutorial was made. And the reason why I chose Visual Studio 2013 and not 2015, given that now we are in 2016, is that there are no precompiled binaries for Visual Studio 2015 yet of the Witty library. Therefore, it would take us more steps, having to compile the library and so on. If you guys are interested, I can also make a tutorial on that. Let me know in the comments. But for the time being, let's just download this bad boy. And what else are we gonna be using? Well, we're gonna be using a tool, SourceForge, called Witty Designer. Let's see. Oh, it's weird. I cannot find it. Let's go directly into SourceForge. my computer is a little bit slow. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Wow, it's taking quite some time. What else are we gonna need? Well, CMake we're gonna use to generate our project files. So if you develop in C++ regularly, probably you are pretty familiar with all these tools. Maybe not Witty Designer and Witty, that's why you're watching these tutorials, of course. But Visual Studio, CMake, almost every C++ developer knows these tools. Let's see, download latest release. Yeah, let's click on that one. So I'm gonna pause the video until all these files are downloaded and everything is installed. I'm gonna come back in a sec. Okay guys, well, Visual Studio is still installing, but the CMake webpage has loaded. So go down and look for the Windows installer here. Just click on it. It's gonna download. And also the Witty Designer website has loaded. Let's just also download the installer. Okay, so what are these tools? Maybe you guys know them, but for the guys who don't know them, CMake is, its name means cross-platform make, if I'm not mistaken. And basically what it does, it just it has some kind of a scripting language that allows you to define how your project is laid out, and so all the source files and all the resources and everything, and then it just allows you to, out of that definition, to create project files for different IDEs, integrated development environments, like Visual Studio and Eclipse and so on. And it works cross-platform, as its name says, like Windows, Linux, Mac, and so on. So it's a very popular tool. Now, Witty, I have already made an introduction about it, and we will talk about it extensively in these tutorials. And Witty Designer, well, that is an external tool that will save us some time when we are gonna be designing the user interfaces for our web application. So Witty by itself does not provide a way to, what you see is what you get design of the user interface, but you have to do it programmatically. With programmatically I mean, in code by hand, without looking at the result until you compile and run your application. So this Witty Designer tool is going to save us some time, because we're going to be able to immediately see how our web application looks before we actually program the logic behind it. I'm going to pause the video again and then come back to you later when when Visual Studio has finished installing. Hey guys, I'm back. It seems that Visual Studio is almost there, and before we continue, I also wanted to let you know, please make sure that your computer is a 64-bit computer, as it says here. Basically because all the tools that we're going to use are based on 64 bits, as you see here. Wiki is 64-bit. CMake is 32 bits, but a 64-bit can actually run 32-bit applications, so it's okay. Just make sure your operating system is a 64-bit Windows, so you won't have any problems. If you see a message like this in any of the downloads, just say that you want to keep the files. Okay, so I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about, maybe you already know, but if not, the difference between a website and a web application. A website, it just shows information, whereas a web application also has some business logic behind it. And the way to know what is a website and if it's a web application is if there's some kind of user login. So a web application normally has persistent data about a user. So you normally have to log in with your username and your password, and when you log in you can see your own personalized data. An example is just like Facebook, that everybody knows and almost everybody uses. Is like when you log in you can see your own profile, you can see your own friends, and every person that logs in Facebook can see their own friends and their own personalized data. So that is pretty much how you can think about a web application. So whenever you have personalized dynamic data showing up on a website, I'm not an expert in web applications, I gotta say. I just got interested because I'm an engineer, and I'm not a software engineer. I'm electrics and electronics engineer, also a control engineer, but I'm not a software engineer. And when you are working, sometimes you have to develop algorithms for a client or whatever, and then you need to implement them. And in industry, because you need reliable solutions to the customer's problems, you need to use also reliable software. And C and C++ is so far the most reliable programming languages that you can use. So that's why I wanted to learn how to make web applications directly from C++. So Visual Studio has installed. So now that we can check that it's running, now we can close it and let's continue installing Witty. Okay, so we're gonna click it, we're gonna say yes, we're gonna continue, agree, next, let's install everything. Okay, so if you are new to web application development and you don't know C++, maybe it's not a good idea to follow these tutorials, because there are easy ways to make web applications easier. For example, you can use some interpreted programming languages like Python or Java, which are gonna be easier for you to understand. But if you already know C++ and you don't know any other languages, such as my case, maybe this is the best approach, because it's quite direct, and throughout these tutorials we're gonna be able to little by little get to know the web application development world from the C++ perspective. Wow, that took a while. So let's finish the installation of Witty. Now let's install CMake. Next, accept the license agreement, and let's add CMake to the system path. We can always take it out later if we have any problems, but I think it's gonna be okay. Installing CMake. Come on. Finish. And now let's install Witty Designer. This is taking way more than I expected. Sorry guys, but you know, when I watch YouTube tutorials, sometimes I don't like when, you know, the person giving the tutorials are skipping steps, because I run into problems and then, you know, they skip that part and then I'm like, what? So I'm trying to include everything here. Finish. Okay, so let's start by running Witty Designer. We have a shortcut in our desktop. Open. It says, do you want to run this program? Yes. And it's loading. Tick tock. And here it is, Witty Designer. So this is the tool that is going to help us to build the user interfaces for Witty. And as you can see, we have a default interface here, which is just simply a button that says click me. So if you click it, it says voila, hello world. So this is actually already a web application running on your computer. So if you open your browser and navigate to the loopback address and the port 8080, I believe. Oh no, let's see, we can go to settings, preferences. Oh, 8081, sorry, 8081. We can see that we have exactly the same that we are looking on the Witty Designer. We have a button that if we click says hello world. And actually I could go to another computer in my home network, such as my Mac that I have over here, and I can, you know, look at the IP of my computer on my local area network. Here it says that is, whoa, this doesn't, okay, let's try that one. 10 to 111, 15. Whoa. Okay, wait a sec. Okay, sorry, I was my typing is not very good. So if I type the IP address of my other computer, I can see that I can access my web application from within my local network. Okay, check. So yeah, this web application is running in this nice tool, Witty Designer, but you know, I want to make my own application from C++ using also Visual Studio. So how can I export this to Visual Studio? Well, we can first save our project, choose some location, I'll put it in the desktop, and I will call it, let's say, my first web. Click save. Maybe I want to change something else. Let's see what else we have here in preferences. We have here, oh, we have here that the tool was not able to find the Witty library directories, so let's give it a help. Let's see, what is Witty installed? Okay, I can see it here. So we're looking for the include directory, so we can go to include and then select this folder. Alright, and then the library directory, which is the lib here. Let's choose this one, and then the binary directory, which is this one. Okay, there we go. So in which port do we want our web application to be running? Actually, this tool, the Witty Designer, is running a server on this port, on 8081. So maybe we have to use a different one, so we can use for the one that we're gonna be compiling with Visual Studio 8080. We will take a look at these settings later, but for the moment, let's just make sure that we have defined where Witty is installed. Let's click apply. And let's click OK. What else? Where here in our right, we can see our Witty object tree. So here we can see that we have the root, which is of the class container widget. So as I mentioned before, Witty is modeled in a widget-centric fashion, just like Qt. So which means that there are widgets that are shown in the user interface, and then these widgets can act as containers to other widgets, and this is what we're looking at here. We have a root container which contains a push button and a text, and when we click any of these widgets, we can see that on the bottom we have the property for each of these widgets. So in the root we have here the ID, which is Witty root. We can change this name if we want. We also have a class name, which is a container, and we have other properties we will look later. We also have here a button which has different properties, of course, because it has a different class name. The ID is button, and the style class we will also look at later, but this is what I wanted to show you, that you can add more widgets if you want. For example, here on the left we have our widgets list that we have available. We can just either drag it. For example, if I want to add another button, you can see that if I add another button, then on the right it appears in my tree with a unique ID name. I'm gonna change the name. I'm gonna change the name and call it button 2, and I'm gonna change the text. I'm gonna say hello, and you can see it changes. Something that is nice about this tool also is that you can, if you have opened another browser that it's looking at the web application running on this one, we can see the changes in real time. So for example, if I change the text of the second button to world, then it all changes here. So we can preview how our web application is gonna look on a web browser, in this case Chrome. We can also preview how it would look in Firefox or in any of these other browsers, also in a tablet or in a phone, if you have a tablet or a phone connected to your local network. So let's continue. Let's make our project. So now that we have defined where Witty is installed, now we can actually create our CMake project. So we can click, after we have saved our project, we can click export to CMake. Finished exporting. Okay. So I saved my project. I believe I saved it on the desktop. Let me take a look. Because I'm using a virtual machine. Okay, let's take a look where I saved my project. So save as C users desktop. Alright, so it should be in C users here desktop, and here is my project, and we can see that there is a CMake list file, which is the file that CMake uses to generate projects, and we have some auto-generated C++ code. Let me change here folder options so I can see the extensions of the files. No, here. Okay, so I can see I have some auto-generated code. We have an H file and a couple of two H files and a couple of CPP files that form our auto-generated project. So let's go and open CMake GUI. So here it is. This folder represents the source, the source of our project. And what is really cool about CMake with respect to other build systems is that you can build your application out of the source tree. So what do I mean by that? Let's show by the example. I'm gonna create another folder that is called just the same, but bin from binaries. So I can put this path in CMake as my source folder, and then where do I want to create the Visual Studio project? In this case, I'm gonna create it in the bin folder. So once I have defined those two folders, I can click on configure, and then it's gonna tell me, hey, what compiler do you want to use, or which project do you want to create? As you can see, there's a lot of options: Eclipse, Visual Studio 2005. We're using Visual Studio 2013, 64 bits, so let's make sure that we choose Visual Studio 12, 2013, 64, Win64, and then click Finish. As you can see, our binary directory is populating. CMake is working. And then let's click Generate. And our project has generated. So we have a lot of files in here. Let's open the solution file. So myfirstwebapp.sln. We open this. Visual Studio launches. Oh, I like my project tab on the left. So here we have these three different projects. This is actually our web application project. These other two are CMake related, so we're gonna ignore them for the time being. Let's right click my first web app and click Set as Startup Project. Then let's right click again and put where are you? Scope to this. So here is our first project. We can see that the files that were auto-generated appear in here, and we can actually go and build this project. It's gonna take a little bit of time. In the meanwhile, I can show you around a little bit what was generated. Most importantly is this header file UI_myfirstwebapp.h, which contains all the source code that was auto-generated by the Witty Designer tool. So we can see here that in our widget tree on the right we have the root, a couple of buttons, and the text, and the same are generated here. So we can see that our build has succeeded. So we can actually run this application. First, let's make sure that the Wiki binaries are actually, or the path to the Wiki binaries are actually in our debugging environment. Here we can see that yes, the path is there because we defined it previously in here. So it should be alright, it should work. So we can run our first web application. and here it is. And whenever you get this kind of message, please allow the Windows firewall to for your application to actually you know, so clients can connect to your web application. This opens the port on the firewall. Keep it on private networks. Later we will talk about more about deploying, but for the time being, just leave the default. So we have, oh damn, close. So this is it. This is our first web application running. We can actually go again to the loopback IP address, and I believe we put port 8080 for this one, and yeah, it says here server started in this address 8080. So if we click here, and we can see that immediately our web application started getting some requests. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about this in the future, but you can see that you have your very first web application. Click me, hello world. And this is the second button that we added. So this is quite cool. I think we're gonna leave it here, and we will continue on the next tutorials. I hope you guys like it, and please let me know if something was not clear in the comments. Bye.